She told me she was infertile. I believed her, until I found a positive test and texted her ex saying, "We did it, babe." So I shared everything with her family, her ex's wife, and our friends, then walked out of the house without a word. I always thought our life was simple, maybe even a little boring, but in a good way. Like a quiet Sunday morning or a half-watched movie you don't mind rewatching. That was us, or at least I thought it was. My name's Ryan. I'm 32, a commercial architect living in Indianapolis. Been married for almost 3 years now to Natalie, who most people describe as magnetic. She's 31, works as a pharmaceutical rep, and knows how to win a room before she even opens her mouth. From the outside, we looked solid. We traveled when we could, kept separate social circles, and respected each other's space. We didn't always feel like newlyweds, but I figured that was normal. Lately, she seemed distant, sure, distracted maybe, but who isn't? With work and life pulling at you from every side? There was one thing about Natalie that had been a big deal early on, kids. She told me early in our relationship, before things got serious, that she couldn't have children, some medical issue from years ago. She didn't get emotional when she told me, didn't sugarcoat it, just laid it out like a fact. I won't lie, that stung. I'd always pictured myself as a dad. Some part of me had already filled in the blank spaces with little league games and late-night story times. But Natalie had been upfront, and I'd made peace with it. Built a life with her that made room for adventure, career growth, and time together. That version of life, I could live with. Until one Thursday evening in May. I got home early from a site inspection, around 4:30. The house was quiet, she was still at work, I figured. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door, kicked off my shoes, and headed to the kitchen for something cold. Then I noticed the bathroom door was open, and the trash hadn't been emptied. It's dumb how small a thing can unravel everything. I don't usually pay attention to the bathroom trash, but the top looked disturbed, like something had been shoved deep, then covered with tissue. That little detail caught me. I don't know why. Maybe because Natalie's always obsessively tidy. I pulled a tissue aside, and that's when I saw it. A digital ovulation monitor, half wrapped in a CVS receipt. I froze. Underneath it, 4 pregnancy test strips. All used. All faintly marked. All hidden under layers of paper towel and cotton swabs. My heart stopped, then started again too fast, thudding against my ribs. For a second, I thought I'd misread them, that maybe they were old. But the receipt was dated 3 days ago. I sat on the edge of the tub and just stared at them, my brain turning inside out. Natalie had spent years telling me she couldn't have kids. So who the hell were these tests for? Because they sure as hell weren't for me. I sat there a long time, feeling like the floor had dropped out from under my life. Like I'd been living in a house that wasn't real, just a beautifully painted set. Something was very, very wrong. And I had no idea how deep it went. I didn't say anything that night. When Natalie got home around 6, I was in the living room pretending to be halfway through a show I'd already seen. She kissed me on the cheek, said something about a long day, and headed straight to the bedroom to change. I watched her go, wondering how I ever thought I knew her. I barely slept. I kept replaying it all, her voice telling me she couldn't have kids, the matter-of-fact way she'd said it, how I'd accepted it without question. And now this. Multiple pregnancy strips, an ovulation monitor, and not a word to me. The silence between us had always felt comfortable. Now it felt like a lie. Around 2 in the morning, I got up and wandered into the kitchen. Poured myself a glass of water I didn't really want. Then, for reasons I couldn't explain, I walked into her home office and sat down at her desk. Natalie barely used her tablet. She was all about her phone. But the tablet was still plugged in by her desk, screen face down like it had been forgotten. I powered it on. No passcode. I told myself I wasn't snooping. I was just clarifying. Just looking for something, anything, to explain what I'd found. Something medical. A fertility study, maybe. A specialist. I wasn't looking to catch her in anything. Until I did. There was a message app one didn't recognize at first. Not the usual text or emails. It must have synced from her phone. A chat thread titled, Kyle B. Research. My stomach dropped. I clicked it open. The most recent message from 2 nights ago, read. We pulled it off, babe. Still can't believe it's happening. I felt the room tilt. I scrolled up. Flirty messages. Inside jokes. Pictures of wine glasses on a dinner table I didn't recognize. And sprinkled through it all talk of trying. Talk of timing. Talk of how Ryan still doesn't have a clue. I kept going. Weeks of conversations. Then months. They talked about names. About how much he looks like his dad when he sleeps. I didn't know if that meant Kyle or me. And underneath all of it, a mocking undertone. Like I was some dumb, oblivious husband living in a sitcom. I felt numb. Not angry. Not yet. Just hollow. Like someone had scooped out the center of me and left the shell standing there in Natalie's neat little office. I started taking screenshots. Every text. Every timestamp. Every image and emoji. I wasn't sure why. Maybe because I couldn't trust myself to remember any of it later. Maybe because I needed proof that I wasn't crazy. I uploaded everything to a locked cloud folder. Gave it a name I knew Natalie would never think to search. Then I sat there, staring at the screen, the weight of it all sinking in. I wasn't just betrayed. I was erased. She had lied to me about her body, about our future, and now she was building a new one. Carefully, privately, with someone else. The pain didn't even come right away. What came first was clarity. Cold, sharp clarity. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't confusion. This was war. And she had just made the first move. So I started planning my next one. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the sun rise from the kitchen window, the tablet still open beside me, the folder of evidence sitting quietly in the cloud like a loaded weapon. There was no yelling, no pacing, no dramatic breakdown, just silence. Cold, clinical silence. I was done being shocked, done trying to explain it away or make it make sense. Natalie had already rewritten our story. She just didn't know I'd started writing the ending. By 7 a.m., I was drafting the email. The subject line was simple. Thought you should know. I kept the body short. 2 sentences, maybe 3. No insults. No explanations. No dramatic reveal. Just a link to the folder and a line that said, I thought you deserved to see the truth. I'll let the messages speak for themselves. I sent it to exactly 8 people. Natalie's parents, her sister, 2 of our closest mutual friends, Kyle B., of course, and Kyle's wife, who I tracked down easily enough through his Facebook profile and a couple clicks through tagged photos. By 7:12 a.m., it was out there. At 7:14, the first red receipt pinged from Natalie's sister. By 7:20, Kyle's wife had opened it. By 7:25, I had 3 missed calls and 2 texts from an unknown number, one of them just read. Who the F are you? I assumed that was Kyle. I sipped my coffee in silence. Didn't respond. Didn't move. I just watched the digital fallout roll in like slow, methodical waves. Natalie's mom sent a text. Ryan, please call me. This can't be real. Her dad called 3 times in 10 minutes. Our mutual friend Eric texted. I don't even know what to say, man. Are you okay? I didn't answer any of them. At 8:53 a.m., I heard her car pull into the driveway. I sat at the kitchen counter, scrolling through the news on my phone like it was any other morning. I didn't even flinch when the front door opened. Morning, she called out. She was humming. I heard her heels click across the hardwood as she made her way to the kitchen. Her phone must have still been on Do Not Disturb because she hadn't seen it yet. God, traffic was brutal today, she said as she walked in, tossing her purse on the chair. You wouldn't believe. She froze mid-sentence when her phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. Her eyes dropped to the screen. I watched her brows furrow, her jaw go tight. She unlocked it, and then it hit. The color drained from her face. Her lips parted slightly. Her hand lowered like it suddenly weighed 50 pounds. For a second, neither of us said anything. The room was dead silent except for the faint whir of the fridge. Then she looked up at me. You sent this? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Her phone buzzed again. Her sister. Then her mom. She swiped up, mouth open like she was about to defend herself, but the words didn't come. All the slick charisma, the practiced charm, it was gone. What was left was panic. How could you? I sipped my coffee, then finally spoke. Everything you hid in the dark? I just turned the lights on. She blinked at me like she didn't recognize the person sitting across from her. Maybe she didn't, because I wasn't playing the fool anymore. I was done being her cover. Now, she got to live in the truth. And I was just getting started. Natalie stood frozen in the kitchen, her phone buzzing over and over again in her hand like it was on fire. She didn't move at first, just stared at me with that panicked, desperate look, like she expected me to say it was all a mistake, that I'd somehow misunderstood. But I didn't say a word. You had no right, she finally blurted, her voice rising fast. That was private. You had no right to expose me like that. I looked her straight in the eye. And you had no right to lie to my face for 3 years. She flinched. Just a little. You went through my messages, she said, like that was the real betrayal here. That's a violation. I cut her off with a calm shrug. So is cheating. And intentionally getting pregnant with another man's child. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. You think this is about privacy? I said, standing. That ended the second you dragged me into a life built on lies. Natalie's eyes started to gloss over, and for a second I saw something crack, that polished, confident veneer she always wore. Her lips trembled. She swallowed hard. I didn't want to hurt you, she whispered. It just happened. I laughed once, cold and humorless. Don't insult me with, it just happened. You made appointments. You tracked cycles. You told him you were ready. It didn't just happen, you planned it. Her face twisted. Ryan, please. Let's talk. We can fix this. No one else needs to be involved. Too late. She stepped toward me like she was going to touch my arm. I stepped back. No, I said. You don't get to clean this up. Not this time. She looked like she was going to say something else, but her phone buzzed again. She glanced down. Her expression shifted. Is this? She started, voice unsteady. Did you seriously send this to Kyle's wife? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. And right on cue, headlights flashed through the front window. A black SUV pulled into our driveway, fast and abrupt. Natalie's face drained of all color. Oh my God. The engine cut. The driver's side door flew open. Kyle's wife stepped out. She looked calm, eerily calm, with her jaw clenched and her hand shaking only slightly as she walked up the path. Natalie gasped. You didn't. I walked to the front door, opened it, and nodded once at the woman I had just shattered with the truth. Then I turned back to Natalie. I'll be gone for a few days. You won't be here when I get back. She started crying. Real tears now, not the performative kind. Ryan, please don't do this. I stepped past her. Past the tears. Past the ruined mask. Kyle's wife brushed by me without a word. Her eyes locked on Natalie like a missile. I didn't turn back. I just walked out into the morning air. And for the first time in days, I breathed. The next 48 hours were a storm of digital noise. My phone blew up. Calls, texts, emails, some full of rage, some of concern, and a few that honestly surprised me. I didn't answer any of them. I wasn't interested in explanations or damage control. I stayed with Marcus, my best friend since college. He didn't ask questions. He just handed me a beer, slid a blanket across the couch, and left me alone until I was ready to talk. That kind of silence was rare. I appreciated it more than I could say. Natalie tried everything. The first message was simple. Can we talk? Please. An hour later. You can't just ghost me, Ryan. We're married. Then came the shift. The panic. My parents are devastated. They think I'm disgusting. Are you happy now? Then the anger. You ruined my life. You could have kept this private, but no, you had to humiliate me. And then, when none of that worked, the pleading again. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Please come home. We can figure this out. But I didn't answer. Not once. The silence was my boundary, and I had every intention of keeping it. What I hadn't expected was Kyle's wife to reach out. Her name was Lauren. She found me through Instagram. Thank you for telling me the truth. I filed for divorce this morning. You probably saved me years of lies. It was short, but powerful. I read it twice before replying. I wish it didn't have to happen like this. But I'm glad you know. She didn't message back. She didn't need to. We both understood the cost of clarity. Natalie's family was imploding. Her father, a retired high school principal who used to tell me marriage is about character, called me from a number I didn't recognize. Left a voicemail. I'm sorry, son. I truly am. I didn't raise her to do this. If you ever need anything, you let me know. I didn't know what to say to that. Her sister, Melanie, messaged me late one night. She hasn't stopped crying. I'm not defending her. What she did was awful, but she's falling apart. I just thought you should know. I read it, then muted the thread. I didn't need updates on Natalie's spiral. This wasn't about revenge. This was about release. While they unraveled, I started rebuilding. Quietly. Intentionally. I booked consultations with a divorce attorney. A calm, sharp woman named Deb who spoke like she had handled 100 cases just like mine. She asked for everything. The screenshots, the marriage license, financial records, insurance details, property documents. I gave her everything she needed. She looked through the evidence without flinching. Prenup? She asked. Nope. She nodded. We'll move quickly then. And just like that, a new timeline began. I opened a new bank account. Froze our shared credit cards. Changed my passwords. The version of Ryan that built a life with Natalie, the one who dreamed of Sunday pancakes and road trips with a kid in the back seat, he was gone. In his place was someone sharper, quieter, still bleeding, maybe, but no longer lost. This wasn't just the end of our marriage. It was the end of her power over me. And from here on out, I'd be the one writing the story. I went back to the house 3 days later. It was a little after 9 in the morning. The driveway was empty and the curtains were drawn. I stood outside for a minute, keys in hand, heart thudding slower than I expected. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't angry. I just wanted it over with. When I opened the door, the first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the normal, lived-in kind, but the kind that feels hollow. The kind that tells you something's already gone. She left. Just like I asked. No note. No message. Just one small act of pettiness. The wedding photo that used to sit on the kitchen counter, flipped face down, the glass frame cracked along one corner. I stared at it for a moment, then picked it up and dropped it straight into the trash. One less thing to explain to the next version of my life. I walked through each room slowly, checking drawers, closets. She hadn't taken much. A few clothes. A pair of heels that used to sit by the door. Her favorite coffee mug was gone too, the white one with the chip on the handle. Good. Less for me to throw away. I started boxing up the rest. Things we bought together. Things that never really belonged to either of us. I labeled them by instinct: hers, mine, donate. I didn't rush. I wanted to be sure. Clean cuts leave fewer scars. By noon, I was in my office with Deb, my attorney, going over the papers she drafted. Everything was happening faster than Natalie expected. That was the point. We froze all joint accounts. Filed to list the house. Set up a spousal separation agreement that didn't give her a cent more than the law required. I signed my name on every dotted line. By the next afternoon, Natalie had been officially served at the address she'd listed on our old lease. She didn't take it well. I know because she texted me, then called, then emailed. This is blindsiding me. You're not even going to try? I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. We're not finished, Ryan. But she was wrong. We were finished the moment she decided to take away my right to choose, to build a life with full knowledge, not half-truths. I never replied. Not until 3 days later, when I sent her one final message. Just one sentence. You took away my right to choose. I'm done. And that was it. No more explanations. No more opportunities for her to spin it. I didn't owe her closure. She closed that door herself the second she made a baby with someone else while lying in our bed. A few nights later, I slept in that same bed, alone, and I didn't dream about her. Not once. There were no flashbacks, no late-night regrets, no imaginary arguments in the shower. There was just quiet. And for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel empty. It felt like peace. 6 months later, I barely recognized the guy I used to be. The divorce went through quicker than anyone expected. Natalie didn't contest anything in the end. Maybe she knew better. Or maybe she was too embarrassed to fight for a life she'd already burned to the ground. The house sold 2 months ago. I left it behind like a shed skin, emptied, swept, and signed away without sentiment. I moved into a loft on the north side of Indy. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Every square inch of it felt like freedom. Most mornings started the same way now. Early alarm. Coffee. Gym. The routine kept me sane. I was stronger now, physically, mentally, in ways I didn't even know I needed to be. Marcus talked me into joining a local men's group. Just a few guys meeting once a week to talk about things men usually stuff down into silence. At first, I hated it. Sitting in a circle with strangers, talking about pain, grief, betrayal. But after a while, it became something I looked forward to. Not because I needed to vent, but because it reminded me I wasn't the only one. I also started going to this little church just outside town, not every Sunday, just sometimes. It sat on a hill overlooking the woods, and when the sun hit just right, the whole place glowed. Marcus and his wife, Leah, brought me there one weekend, and I've gone back on my own a few times since. I don't know if I found faith, but I found quiet. That was enough. Therapy helped too. Not to fix me, I wasn't broken, but to help me understand why I let myself be so blind for so long. Why I called it love when it was really just fear of being alone. That fear's gone now. A few weeks ago, I downloaded a dating app. Not because I was desperate, but because I was curious. I matched with a woman named Jenna. She was nothing like Natalie. No gloss. No rehearsed charm. Just warmth. Honesty. The kind of person who didn't flinch at silence and didn't try to fill every second with small talk. We met for coffee. Talked for 2 hours. Then again, the next weekend. She asked me questions like she actually wanted to hear the answers. When I told her I'd been married, that my ex had cheated and gotten pregnant with another man, she didn't blink or ask for the gory details. She just nodded and said, "You don't have to carry that." I asked what she meant. She stirred her tea and looked me in the eye. "Let the lie die with her," she said. "That story's not yours anymore." And just like that, something inside me let go. It wasn't love at first sight. It wasn't fireworks. It was something better, calm. No pretense. No pressure. Just two people meeting in the middle, each carrying less than they used to. I don't know where it's going with Jenna. I'm not in a rush to find out. What I do know is this. The worst thing that ever happened to me didn't destroy me. It revealed me. And now, finally, I get to decide who I want to be on my terms. Not hers. Not anyone else's. Just mine.